Hey everybody, welcome back to Live. I'm your host Nick Taylor, and I'm hanging again with Peli de Halleux from Microsoft. Peli, how you doing?
Hi, Nick. Pretty good. Pretty early here, but
Yeah, no, appreciate you taking the time to get up a little earlier. It's my streaming schedule changed slightly, so I do appreciate it.
it's going
But
to be
yeah.
a very productive day.
Cool, cool. So, I guess before we get started, for folks who might not know who you are, I guess what are you up to over at Microsoft? I know we were hanging out talking about some previous projects last time, but I guess maybe the TLDR of Peli.
Yeah. So my name is Peli de Halleux, and I work at Microsoft Research here in Washington, in the USA. Um, and I'm a developer in the research division. I've worked for a number of years on a platform called MakeCode, which is a code block-based coding environment for kids. Um, And in that space, we did a lot of things around embedded. So
Hmm.
we allow kids to program microcontrollers, think very small, very little memory, very little energy.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
did so we last time we met, we were talking about DeviceScript, which was uh, a stunt on taking TypeScript to the microcontrollers.
Yeah.
Um, but then this time around, we are looking at AI, still under the kind of the still from a point of view of somebody who likes to do JavaScript and TypeScript. So we're going to be
Okay.
talking about AI, and we're going to bring some love for the JavaScript TypeScript community around that topic.
Oh, cool.
Um,
That's awesome.
yeah,
Nice. Yeah, no, it's and also just shout out to all that work you did with the IoT stuff for like make code and stuff because we talked about this last time, but like I know in the UK they had this program with the microbit, and I bought my kids one of those, and it's just honestly a really fun way to educate folks, and it's also yeah, I think that's the thing. It's kind of fun because it's not like you're not building like some huge scalable program. It's just like, okay, I made some lights light up or I wrote my name in it, and I think because I think it's going to be kind of important that everybody learns programming in some capacity, even if you aren't like a full blown dev. So I think that just in general that was a great initiative. So but yeah.
yeah, embedded the constraints of small hardware. So you can't just npm install a gigabyte and go for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
You're running out of space everywhere, out of heap, out of flash.
Yeah.
So crazy. We actually did. I mean, this is out the script, but we wrote microcode, which is an even smaller
Okay.
environment. It's purely iconic. Think Minecraft.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
that actually runs on the microbit itself. So it's a full blown code editor running on the microbit. The microbit has a little memory, but it's very interesting because we
Yeah.
can have the kids program without internet, actually without
Oh
any
yeah. Yeah.
PC or anything like that. But you still have all the sensors, so hardware has all the sensor, which is pretty nice. But that's
Yeah.
we're diverging from the theme.
Yeah, yeah, I know, I know. I just want to make one side note, because you were talking about little memory, and I have it's not here, but I actually acquired a VIC 20, the computer, uh, about a week and a half ago. Somebody in Montreal, where I live, they were doing renovations in their attic. There was like roof issues, I guess, and they opened it up and they found garbage bags full of unboxed Vic 20s. So I bought one for like $50, and it's literally in the box. It's got the stamp on it saying it was the official computer of the 1980 Olympics. Anyways, just wanted to mention that because you were mentioning very minimal amount of memory, and I know people who are newer to tech probably, like, I don't know, node modules exploding is no big deal, but it's like when you're programming with less than 640K, it's a little different. So
Yeah, we're kind of, we're coming back to think about memory, especially with models and what can you run, what's your hardware.
Yeah.
You know, can you load that model? And you so we're going back to thinking about size and fitting things in things that are too big in memory that are too small.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Um,
Um, but yeah, so we're here to talk about GenAIScript. I'm gonna drop a link to it if folks want to check that out. Um, so you were saying briefly, um, basically it's AI that you can code in either JavaScript or TypeScript. So I guess kind of give what I guess what's the thesis for the project, or how did this come about?
so the thesis for the project is that we want to build automatable. We want to have build scripts, but using AI. Think about all the
Okay.
little stuff you have in your project. You want to have reusable, automatable, useful scripts that use AI as kind of the main technology. And we also wanted it to be as smooth as possible. So we use JavaScript because we've got a runtime and we've got a good language, but we wanted
Yeah.
to have programs, not just string template expansion.
Yeah.
So not just Mustache or Jinja, but actually start building stuff programmatically when things get more complicated, interesting. You run
Okay.
out of options with template engines. Whereas if you use JavaScript or
Yeah.
Python, well, you've got a whole language. So, but at the start, that was one of the dreams. Like, oh, it's you don't really need to know that it's JavaScript.
Yeah.
There's like minimal syntax at the start to get started. I don't know if we managed to, pull that off.
Okay.
But if you think about JavaScript and the runtimes, they've been designed for the browser or for the backend with Node.
Hmm.
So we have now, it ships with a runtime that's also designed for doing Gen AI tasks, like
Okay.
cracking open a PDF and reading the text out of it, or parsing all kind of format defined in a while, like a docx file or
Okay.
a YAML file, which are not native to JavaScript. And you have to do quite a bit of research to figure out which one is a good library and so forth. Whereas
Yeah.
it kind of gets in your way when trying to prototype. Um, so that's kind of the story behind it. It's like, can you rethink the JavaScript and runtime environment experience
Okay.
around using LM as a first class citizen?
Okay.
Um,
Oh,
but
that's super cool.
if you think about chat, it's like debugging. It's a one-time thing. But if you write tests, it's something that pays off over and over and over in the future. So if you
Yeah.
can't take an AI task that you've done once in chat and you say, oh, this is pretty cool, but I want it every day.
Yeah.
Um, then you need a script. Then you need to write a program. Um, and then I think that's where you get a massive payoff because, then it's going to start doing the work for you over and over. So with GenAIScript, we
Yeah.
try to really streamline this prototyping phase where it's
Yeah.
very easy to go from something, or even going from a chat session to concretizing that into a reusable script that's stable. So the other thing is like, how stable is your AI workflow
Yeah. That's what
internally?
I was gonna ask because it's typically non-deterministic AI.
Yeah. So we try to be quite robust versus what the output could be, and we'll support schema and stuff. And
Okay.
but hey, no guarantees. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's December and the LM decided that it was vacation time. So
Yeah. Yeah.
on Labor
No.
Day.
Yeah. Like you bring up schema, and I was listening to a podcast. I think a few months ago, from Scott Hanselman. It was on. Can't remember if it was on his Hansel Minutes or if he was on another podcast, but they were talking about type schema, and there was a project. I can't remember if Anders started it. Yeah,
Type chat, yes.
yeah, yeah. That's it. Yeah, yeah.
So we do use well, we don't use type chat per se. We use the idea of type chat. What
Hmm.
what they discovered in type chat is that providing a type signature, a TypeScript type signature to the LM was at a better performance than a big fat JSON schema.
Yeah,
Again, this is This is a few models ago, so it has to be verified. Maybe they did better fine tuning with the structured output and stuff. But
Okay.
internally, when you give us a schema, we'll convert into a TypeScript type definition. That's what we put into the prompt. So you don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
If you
Okay.
think about all the tokens that go into a JSON payload, it might
Hmm.
be that ELM is just it's just more efficient for it to understand. It definitely understands code.
Yeah. Yeah.
So um, so that's and type chat. If you go into the source code, you can clearly see what they're doing.
Okay.
We don't package TypeScript, so we don't reuse them. We're
Oh, okay. I see. Yeah, because you're trying to have a minimal footprint as well.
yeah, mail for per footprint. We use TSX, so we use ESBuild to convert TypeScript to run TypeScript.
Okay.
But we rely on you being in VS Code and having the VS Code TypeScript compiler to find
Yeah.
errors if you want to.
Yeah. No,
Um,
I think that's a fair trade-off to to minimize the footprint. Because yeah, I use TSX sometimes. I mean, Node.js has TypeScript support coming in soon. There's others
yeah,
like like I used Dino when I worked at Netlify, and I still use Dino, but Dino has TypeScript support out of the box, and then there's Bun too. But typically before any of those things, I was using TSX or I forget the previous one. TSX is a newer one, but
yeah.
there was another one, or you had to do like a register on Node.js to say like use this thing so you could use TypeScript. But no, that's cool. And yeah, again, I think that's a fair trade-off if you say like work in the VS Code where you do have all the TypeScript built into VS Code. So
And we are, we provide a DTS, so even when you write JavaScript, you get the squiggles and stuff.
yeah.
It's actually almost it's really the same unless you start really writing more complex code or you have like type issues. But
Okay. Yeah.
um, yeah, TSX is actually a very nice library, and it's got
Yeah.
exactly the right APIs for us.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's you're mentioning the DTSs with like the TypeScript definition files. Uh, and I always laugh when people say they don't like TypeScript, but they're using VS Code because because like at some point I have to tell them, oh well, you that thing you just refactored, that's TypeScript, or why you're getting IntelliSense, that's TypeScript. So, anyways, just a little side note I like to bring up every now and then.
it's like sports, right? People have their favorite team.
Yeah,
And,
exactly, exactly. But that
uh,
said, I think TypeScript's pretty dominant these days. Like there's obviously still projects that are just JavaScript, but anytime I hear about people creating new projects, it's definitely TypeScript almost always. And at least like in front end land, like meta frameworks, they all default to TypeScript, I think now for the majority. So um but yeah.
well, we support both, so we'll
Yeah, yeah.
take. But this is definitely a JavaScript project, so we
Okay.
don't do Python. Historically, we started. It is tied to VS Code, so we start from being just an extension. So
Hmm.
obviously, we're written TypeScript, and the scripts were running inside of VS Code. We've since then moved out execution to a node process
Yeah.
for a number of reasons. The number one being we can't dynamically load import modules when
Okay.
you're in VS Code Electron, so we had to bundle everything, and some libraries are pretty big, like
Yeah.
the PDF, the PDF parsers, and now you're bundling megabytes of JavaScript.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
eventually, the route of let's we could run everything in VS Code and we could be a pure extension didn't pan
Yeah.
out. But also, you want the CLI to automate your scripts. Um,
Hmm. Yeah. Totally. Um, Fuzzy in the chat saying, dude, what's this API?" I'm not sure if you're referring to the type chat link I dropped there, Fuzzy, but yeah. Um, so I know you wanted to showcase some of this stuff. So I can bring us over to pairing view if you just wanna. I can share your screen, and I guess um, I guess walk us through like I guess if you're getting started, I've dropped a link to the GenAI TypeScript docs, but
Yeah,
um, yeah, what's the best place to start, I guess?
I have this beautiful deck, but we can do one slide and then I'll show you, and then we'll go into deep demos.
Okay,
Um,
cool. Yeah, that sounds great.
Prompts are programs, and they are. We assemble prompts, we do RAG, we do all kind of stuff. So eventually, you rarely have a fixed string that you send to the LM. It's always assembled from various sources in a way. And you could argue that eventually it's all always a REST call somewhere. So all the layers
Yeah.
of that are useless, and they're overhead, and that's probably true. But GenAIScript is another overhead, but it makes you
Mhm.
write these assemble these strings more easily, right?
Okay.
So let's take a look at a PDF analyzer. It's a classic topic in the GenAI thing. You want to
Mhm.
crack open a PDF and extract data out of it. So in GenAIScript, we have basically you have a JavaScript file that we're going to run. So we have a runner for this file.
Yeah.
Um, the first thing is you define your context. So we have this function called def,
Yeah.
and it lets you define these kind of weird variables. These are like LLM variables because we tell the hey, this thing is called file, and here's the
Okay.
context. But there's no real old school programmatic binding there. Like we assume the LM is going to remember that this code file.
Okay.
Anyway, so what it looks like in the prompt is this kind of. Um, this is a syntax we teach the LM how to use. So this is not rocket science again, but there are a lot of optimization you can do there because you might try to inline a file that's too big, or
Okay.
you might want to summarize it, or you might want to give it like a budget of tokens and things like that. So, or if you want precise information about like a linter, you're going
Mhm.
to want line numbers. Otherwise, it hallucinates and it makes up the line numbers. So the whole
Yeah.
bunch of things that are annoying to do over and over again that we take care for you. The next thing is a task. You're giving maybe your persona and a task to do, and here we use the beloved $ operator.
Okay.
Sorry, we use it.
That's all good. It's all
Uh,
good.
so this writes to the prompt. So you run the program, it assemble prompts, and then once you're done running main, it starts doing the LLM magic. So this
Okay.
basically says write and then format this to the prompt. And this is a typical this is JavaScript file. There's an identifier that has been returned, and then it's been inlined here. And this is what it looks like in the prompt. And then also we start adding system prompts. So we've got a series of system prompts that are basically teaching micro formats to the LM. So that we're going to augment your query with our system prompt runtime so that it understand how GenAIScript expects the output to come.
Okay.
Now we talk about output, and you can be as loose as this. Basically, you can typically tell the LM where you want your files to be.
Okay.
Then when we see that you want files, we also add these system prompts. Now
Okay.
you can be more aggressive, and this is the type chats thing. So you can define schemas. Now we have a dedicated API to define schema because that means we know about it, and we
Mhm.
can do validation using some JavaScript libraries. So we can on the parsed output, we can look at the output that the LM comes back. We can say, oh,
Okay.
great, it's JSON, but you violate these rules in the schema. Then we can send a message back to the LM saying fix this because it's wrong.
Okay.
And this is one of the technique to get more reliable output, is that when you get the structured output that may be right, you
Mhm.
validate it, and then you send the errors to the LM, and hopefully, this catches the 10% of the case where it doesn't work, and then
Yeah.
you get to 99%. This is actually type chat, right? So you define a
Yeah.
type and an array of this object. We also support shorthand to define schema, so you don't have to get the whole. Uh, so basically, we look at the data here and say, oh, this looks like an array, and there's two fields, so we'll turn that into array of object with two fields. So you don't
Okay.
have to write the whole even JSON. You can do the JSON schema stuff, but it's verbose and kind of annoying to write.
Okay.
Then we kind of bind things together and say, yeah, use the schema, really. But again, that's just sending text. So basically, this is a little GenAIScript program, and this is roughly what's going to happen in the prompt. And
Okay.
then after that, there is parsing on our side to structure that and surface that into VS Code or on your file system. And then the last one, this is where things get more interesting. You can define tools. So in OpenAI, these used to be called functions,
Yeah.
and they're basically a callback to you. So typical example is, what's the weather now? So you
Hmm.
define a weather function. OpenAI says, hey, call this function, get the weather, and give me the answer.
Yeah.
So you append that to the list of JSON messages that you send to the OpenAI, you append the answer. So in this case,
Okay.
what you can do, for example, is define a tool that takes a JavaScript function. And in this case, we had an abstraction over the file system. So you can read text from the workspace.
Okay.
Originally, we were running inside of VS Code. So we wanted to support running also in the web. Uh, but we kept the abstraction. It has some advantages to provide it, not to rely on. But you can also do the FS stuff. So
Okay.
in OpenAI, you've got this JSON that you have to include in the request, and then you have to answer to messages and stuff like that. So this is handled
Yeah.
for you. Just run it, just format it. All right.
Yeah.
Let me show you that in action. So, and again, the idea is that to go really fast when you're designing this. So prompts are iterative. You
Yeah.
don't get it in the first case, and you have an idea and you want to try it out. You don't really know if it's going to work. So you want a tool that's fast for you to experiment. If you
Okay.
want to get started with GenAIScript, just go to the marketplace in VS
Oh, I
Code, and
didn't realize it's an extension. Okay.
yeah, it's an extension. It is an
Okay.
extension, and it is an npm package. The extension really drives the npm package. The npm package is CLI
Okay.
uh, that runs your scripts. So whatever you do in the extension, eventually you can automate. In
Okay.
fact, we give you the command line, you can run that. So, and here it is. There's our little view here. We'll see about the view.
Okay.
But I'm gonna create a new script. All right. So create a new script, and the poem generator. This is the template. So write a
Okay.
short poem in code. You can see that we dropped the DTS, so this is dropped for you. We put some git attributes so it doesn't annoy you. But
Okay.
um, and then there's also the TS config, so TypeScript. I haven't found a less intrusive way to do this, but um, it is what it is. But that means you
Yeah.
get you get the IntelliSense here. So
Okay.
again, this is basically uh, we're going to run this code and then we're going to send it. So if you want to run it directly, you don't depend on files. You can click here
Okay.
and run an AI script. And it is basically running the CLI.
Okay.
And what did I ask? Write a short poem in code. Okay. So it did. If you click on so you can see this is the CLI output.
Yeah.
And you click on the view, you can actually see a full trace. Let's go ahead and close this. So this is a view. We drop a trace that's marked down. Then we parse
Okay.
it straight and do it for you. But it's basically flat markdown. You can see how you can automate this. We're using oh yeah, we can talk about which model we're going to use, which is a huge topic.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Because they have different strengths and
Also, do you have access to one and
oh,
where
that's true too. Yeah. Yeah.
they all right, so basically this is our prompt. This is the source of your prompt. We generate a tree internally where we can optimize a tree, and we have a little flex algorithm that kind of allocates tokens and stuff like that. But this is the output. Yeah,
Okay.
very impressive. Um, we got the configuration of our model. We're using 4.0, GPT 4.0. We've got the GitHub token. So in this case, we're in the code space, and I'm in
Okay.
the GitHub models. I don't know if you're in the beta, but I'm in the
Yeah,
beta.
I haven't used it yet, but I got access to it. I haven't.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm looking at a bunch of stuff. I'm actually looking at the Copilot extension stuff right now. So, uh, beta
yeah, we
and
can
more.
also use that. We're a bit more restrictive.
Okay.
So yeah, this is the configuration. Then there's the dance of the chat. So the chat is, we're going to send two messages. This is our system message. This is your message. This is the request. You can see fetch. You can copy paste this and run it in the
Okay.
CLI. This is the curl. So this is the truth. This is it. This is what's sent to the LLM. The
Okay.
rest is, this is the as deep as it gets for us into peeling the onion.
Yeah.
This is what's sent to OpenAI to GitHub,
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. So
and then you've got the output. Yeah.
okay. So I guess a question in terms of, obviously this is gonna a tool for automation, like you were saying. Would would it be that I come in, I use the extension, I create my poem, or I create some kind of build script, or I don't know, whatever I build, we end up with that final REST call, and that's what we paste into our automation script, or what is like,
No, no, no. You can run GenAIScript on
okay,
that
so you
script.
don't even have to go that low in the stack. Okay.
It's interesting to kind of figure out, if you know about like what are we sending really. Like, also sometimes when I want to send a repro to someone that doesn't
Yeah.
need the whole stack, I can copy this, say just run this, put your key, run this,
Okay.
uh, and then you'll see that. The idea is that in automation, you're going to use the CLI. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you that. But
Okay.
um, but yeah, you want the nice thing when you wrote a script is that you can reuse it. I mean, that's the main
Yeah.
advantages versus going to the chat, right?
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I use chat all the day, every day. There's a lot of tasks you want to use chat, but then sometimes you want to automate things.
Yeah.
In that case, you've kind of lost that. All right, so uh, I can basically run again
Okay.
and get the
Okay. So
answer.
you even
So
got some emojis in your poem.
yeah, emojis. Now, okay, let's see something that's more interesting. VS Code, we have files, and files is where we store interesting stuff. So in this case, I have this bicep file that I took from a sample.
Yeah.
Um,
Just for
bicep.
folks who might not be aware of that, that's for, I used to do .NET, but this is after I was doing .NET. It's like for automation in .NET.
So this is a language for Azure resource deployment.
Okay.
So they used to have, I think, something based on XML. So
Hmm.
Azure Bicep is a language to describe a set of Azure resource to deploy your like a whole cloud on Azure. So in this case,
Yeah.
you can see, what's interesting. You can create a site and a server farm, and there's all kind of properties. So it's kind of like YAML.
Okay.
It's its own language. Honestly, I don't know much about it. Thankfully, there's AI for it. But it's supposed to do probably a server farm, and you deploy one website. It has
Okay.
it has some parameters with defaults.
Yeah.
All right.
Um, there's a just a quick question in the chat. Fuzzy was asking, and you touched on this before briefly, but maybe I think maybe missed it. But he says you can reuse the prompt, but you will get different results. So getting back to the, like, stuff is not deterministic, obviously, in
Yeah.
AI. So you have some kind of guardrails to some degree by the structured schema.
Yes. So when you can basically, so we support schemas, simplified schemas, and we can validate against that. You can also write guardrails in JavaScript. but we are
Hmm.
not solving we're not solving problems like hallucinations or the AI deciding to give you a different answer. We do try to figure out syntaxes that
Yeah.
minimize hallucinations and also minimize formatting issues. All right, so here's what I want to do. I want to work on that file. So there's a deep concept in GenAI, which is the files you're working on. So if you look
Hmm.
here, there's this new global variable, which is our environment, and we define an array of files. And
Okay.
this array of files is it's really the file object is very dumb. It's like it has a file name and we've preloaded the content for you. So the idea is that you wouldn't have to know about loading files because you're
Okay.
working on that. I'll show you. So what I can do is I can say I can just stuff it into this variable. So this is
Okay.
going to be my context
Okay.
and write a short poem about fun.
Okay.
Right now, where is file coming from? So if I run here, uh, he's going to complain because there's nothing going on.
Okay.
And
So
ignore
can't
this
find file.
because we we've we've tried to connect to Azure and there's no secrets here. We'll talk about the
Okay.
environment. Um, no file because I didn't select one. So the idea is that you would come here,
Hmm.
right click, scroll down, and then say run GenAIScript. So now you've got a tool,
Okay.
and you're gonna say poem. So now the
Okay.
you see it's beautiful, beautiful poem about this.
Yeah. It's how everybody in DevOps wants to hear about their
Knowledge.
infra.
Now, what happened? If we go back to what did we do? So we've got, this is a program. Then, but we got this def that came in. Boom.
Yeah.
So this is when we expanded the def. So the final text of the prompt is this like file, blah blah blah. There's all the file in line, and then there's our text, right? So that's what happened.
Okay.
Um,
And that,
that
like you
means
said, that all goes in the context, and that's
that goes into the context, basically goes into the messages. Eventually, if you look at the request, the whole bunch of text now being sent.
yeah.
So that's what we're sending to OpenAI. So this concept of file is kind of central because it allows you to not only you can specify it from the command line, so you can now parameterize your script kind of naturally through files.
Yeah.
So that means either through the command line or through running in VS Code. So you can right click on a file. You can also right click on a folder. Now, if I
Okay.
do that, I'm going to get a whole bunch of files. So I'm going to say, again, this is convenience. You could do a
Hmm.
filter, but why? Why not? So I'm running that. It's got more tokens,
Yeah.
and the poem is a bit silly. So let's do generate a mermaid diagram of resources.
Oh, that's a good use case actually.
We can still use okay, so this is a bit annoying that I have to right click. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to define a default set of files. The reason I do
Okay.
that is it's just easier for debugging.
Okay.
So if you don't use the UI, we'll use that. Now I can go back to using my button here. And let's
Okay.
see.
I think it's do you need maybe it's something silly, yeah, it says use emojis, or I guess we don't want that.
Now
That's
it's
probably
because
not the issue, but
no, I think what did I do? Oh well, take a look.
yeah, that's okay.
There
That's
you
the
go.
beauty of live coding. So
Oh, there we
uh,
go.
oh,
Uh,
okay. That's impressive.
Yeah, so I'm using where is it? I installed the Mermaid extension here. I installed this
Okay.
one. So it doesn't come built in. This is a 2 million download. Very cool extension. And AI, the AI engine, they understand pretty much Mermaid or Graphis. So uh,
Okay.
and we generate Markdown. So it is kind of built in. And you can see,
Hmm.
yeah, it worked. Now I did my debugging, but I can go and say, how about this whole folder?
Okay.
You know, and we are, so it's, ooh,
Okay. That's pretty quick.
so it's doing something. I mean, I haven't looked at the code, but um, think about putting that into your pull request whenever you touch a bicep file, and to
Yeah.
say, hey, generate a graph of the thing that changed, or and we're really looking at imagining new scripts and new application of AI based on tool, but giving you the tools to do it fast.
Yeah. That's something I mean, you've already mentioned it, but like right now, like when we do stuff with AI, we have to like add these other things to the context. So if we did have to say send a file or whatever, it's like it you're literally you have to recode it and like redeploy to handle all that. Whereas here, you're just kind of doing it on the fly, which is kind of nice. Like obviously at some point you end up with the script you want to automate, but I think it's the fast feedback of doing this is what's really compelling.
Yes, the fast feedback is key when you're creating script, because you're playing, you're adding things, you're reusing. Also, this is file, so it's shared in your
Yeah.
team. It's people can contribute to it. We've done a lot of work to integrate with VS Code, so we got these previews. A lot of work around digging through what's going on, because things get interesting once you have tools. Then you start to have
Yeah.
loops and stuff like that. Now, VS Code has a bunch of things that we can offer. So in this case, we did. Now we're going to do something else. We're going to say generate errors and warnings about file using best practices Azure Bicep.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the linter. This file is linted already. I have this file here defined, so I can debug my script here. Um,
Okay.
Now, this is not what I wanted, because I want, and it should have, okay, it didn't load my little diagnostics. So
Okay.
let's specify what we want as our system prompt. So we're gonna do system and system dot, oh, annotations. There you go. But I should have inferred automatically, but somehow my logic didn't work. So system annotation actually tells the LLM how to format errors.
Okay.
You can see annotations here.
Okay.
So, but most interestingly, you can see we got warnings here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now you linter. So we generate text that we have with a specific format. We parse that. We generate the diagnostic in VS Code. That means the diagnostic come naturally
Hmm.
in your dev flow, right?
Yeah.
This is
And
this.
I
You
was gonna
don't
say
have
getting
for that.
yeah, I was gonna say getting back to what you were saying about pull requests. So like you generate the mermaid diagram for sure, but there's like most people using GitHub probably are aware of like code QL and stuff. So like this could be something that runs on the PR to say like, oh, you know, don't
Oh
ship
yeah,
this.
and I can show you an example of that. We do it. We've been using. We do three things in the repo itself. We generate descriptions for PR.
Okay.
We generate a review, and we also generate comments on every comment, on every commit.
Okay.
Um, the description is very interesting because I'm kind of on the lazy side of generating description. But so we give you actually the CLI supports GitHub Actions and Azure DevOps pipeline. So in the CLI, you can say, I want you to upload this as a comment, or I want you to update a section in the description of the PR with the output
Okay.
of this LM. And we handle, it's a bit ugly to do that. It's just one flag on the CLI. I'll show you an example of that.
Okay.
It's hard to show a demo of that because we need to set up all the keys and stuff. But
Yeah,
we
yeah,
have
no, we'll imagine.
we have extensive documentation about that. But it is one of the beauty is that once you have the script and you can run it in your automation, then it starts paying off all the time.
Mhm.
Right? You don't have to worry about it. So this is another example of deep integration where you've basically built a linter. And the linter is going to be as good as the amount of work you're willing to put in your prompts.
Yeah.
Right. So don't shoot the messenger here. But you've got, maybe there's something that maybe there's an error is like, you can say, only report critical issues. So let's reduce the noise. Run
Okay.
again. So you're prototyping here the what the bicep is going to return, and then eventually you could run that in your. See, it's got less noise now.
Yeah.
We've kind of trimmed out a set of options, but it's still an LM. It will find different errors every time you run it.
Yeah.
Uh, it's not fully deterministic. So again, that was just found because we have specific support for annotation. Now I want to show you. No, since we talk about automation,
Mhm.
and I've done this change, and I like this. I've got a change here. I've got this diff. I want to commit it.
Okay.
There's this new feature with Copilot where you can say generate a commit message. And, you know, being on the lazy side of the house for commit message, use that, but it was like, I want emojis. Oh, this is so sad. All right, so can I get emoji? Um, so this is a script I use all the time. Um, it's a bit, this is JavaScript, so I can do more stuff. So first I'm going to do a
Yeah.
git diff. Then there's nothing diff because I don't stage stuff. So, okay, do you want to stage everything? This is what VS Code does.
Yeah.
Sure, stage things for me. So we do stage, we recompute the diff here. Um, then if there's really nothing, we bail out.
Okay.
Okay, show the diff to the user. Then this is instead of running. So at this point, we're not assembling a prompt in the main thread. Like we're doing a subprompt. So I'm running the subprompt. You can see that this underscore argument, that's my generation context. So now I
Yeah.
have to do underscore def underscore dollar, but it's the same idea. I'm putting the diff, I'm capping the number of tokens because things might have a big change.
Yeah.
Um, telling the LM what I did, uh, use emojis. There you go. And I could actually enforce a style of commit messages that is specific to my team. Like
Okay.
if you use your chore feet,
Yeah.
use the Angular stuff, or there's like a whole bunch of schools around how you should write a commit in a team. But you could basically have a team, an enforcer of the style of a team of the commit that you want. All right.
Okay.
So we run that, then there we bail out, and then then we go to choice to say, do you really want to do that? And then eventually we execute the commit with the generated message. So message is the output of this prompt. So this is more
Yeah.
JavaScript. This is a real program, and I'm going to run that. So I
Okay.
have it wired up in a task. I'm going to show you the task. Where is it? Okay, so it's wired up
Okay.
in the VS Code task here, npx GenAIScript, run GCM. GCM is the name of my file.
Okay.
And then we can see here, where is it? No state changes, stage role changes, yes.
Okay.
That
Gives you the
script can
diff.
generate critical Azure bicep issues in Poem GenAI. Looks amazing, great emoji choice. Commit.
Okay. Oh, that's pretty
You
cool.
got all that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I
Yeah,
have
no.
100% control over it.
Yeah, and also this gets back to, I guess, like, you could build out these tools and then just, like, these become team settings and stuff. And I'm curious about, so like you did that linter there, and it's using the LLM to just basically figure out what needs to be changed or what the warnings are and stuff. Is is it worth it to consider using GenAI script to generate a deterministic script, for the linting, just as an example, like, as opposed to, like, I mean, it seems to be pretty accurate every time you run it, but just given the, like, I guess my broader question is, the goal of Gen AI script is always to leverage LLM output as opposed to using that output to generate another program that would be deterministic.
No, you. So the goal is to make you productive with GenAI.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you're allowed to do anything you want. So you can also tell the DLM to run to generate code and run it. And we have built-in support for Docker. So
Okay,
you run things in container. So you can create a container, run Python, get the answer. What I meant by the linter here, sometimes we'll decide to. It's hard to test whether you already have found an error before because it
okay.
changes the wording a bit.
Yeah,
Or but actually, let me show you a real one. This is GenAI itself. I'm gonna zoom in. I'm
okay,
opening it in. That's so we do have. What is it? Commit review. So this is the script we run when it
yeah.
decides to load.
Yeah, it wants you to install John Papa's Peacock
Yeah,
extension.
so I have some. Um, this is my PR review commit script,
Okay,
and there's a few things in there, but this is you can see how this has evolved. There's all the things it basically reviews every commit. So you can see
okay,
here it runs in VS Code in the GitHub action, and it does a diff on the commit with the previous
okay,
commit, and then it says you're an expert, and you have to review that and give annotations. These are all the
okay,
things that over time I've discovered the AI wants to do, and I'm like, don't do that, or
okay. Yeah, and that's the trial
don't
and
do
error
that,
part.
don't do that. Yes, it's type correct because we ran TypeScript right before that, so
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
worry about that. It's really Pythony, so I noticed. So it doesn't know that there's a compiler.
Okay,
So there's a lot of reports of errors for a type language that makes no sense because we've already caught them. Anyway, how do I run this? Um, it's a YML file somewhere. Commit review. Yes. So this runs um, on pull requests.
yeah,
Some power. We do all the installation, compiling, blah blah blah. There's a bit of Git stuff to get enough info. But here it goes. This is I'm running against my own build, but you would do
yeah.
npx GenAIScript here. I'm
Okay,
running that script. I'm also using I'm outputting the markdown to the GitHub step summary, which is a specific variable in GitHub Actions. So, and I'll show you how it looks like in the actions. But
okay,
then these are all the keys you need. So you need the Git token, the SHA, the commit. and then your OpenAI stuff. So this is beautiful because now this runs all the time. What does it do? Yeah, let me get to the repo here. Let's go and look at these closed PRs. Um, it creates a whole lot of comments. So this is a comment created by this script.
Yeah.
They've been removed. If they're found somewhere else in the codes, could lead to undefined function. Um, in fact, if you click here, go back to the GitHub action that actually generated it, and you've got the
Hmm.
full output
Okay.
that shows you how this was
I don't know
built.
if you can zoom that in maybe once or twice. Okay, yeah,
So
perfect.
we are now. This is the GitHub action output, and this was the run. This was the run where we generate the, and you can see that we created 3 comments in there.
Okay.
But if I go to the summary and I go back in time, I'm like, oh, why did this do that? Kind of review what happened here and
Okay.
review what the prompt looked like. And that's really for me to debug. I really go here, but it's interesting to actually have in the trace the whole
Hmm.
execution of the LLM and go back and look at it and figure out what's going on. But the
Yeah.
the end result is that if we go back to the pull request, I was able to run AI within my. I went back too much.
Oh,
So okay, so this is obviously I didn't write this. This is
yeah.
my, and again, this is another AI payload. Now, whether you like these comments or not, the good news is that you're in full control of writing a script that generates them. So you can
Yeah.
actually decide the tone and decide what you want, or maybe decide not to do that at all. Um, I find it quite interesting when you come back to actually read a summary and not having to go into the source code.
Yeah.
Um, then there's all these comments that are here, and then there's also my reviewer. That is a, so technically on the GitHub side, that is a comment on the pull request. The other ones are pull request review comments. They're
Yeah.
slightly different. Um, the reviewer is always happy. It rarely tells me not to push.
Yeah.
So
If it says Peli, you're doing a terrible job, you should probably review that.
yeah, he knows I'm gonna unplug him if it doesn't let me push it in. But yeah,
Yeah.
so these are different automation that started from a script that can now just run. And am I just leveraging the fact that now the cloud is doing the work for me? And then you have to set up the keys and so forth. So
Yeah.
that's back to this. Once you have a script, now there's a lot of stuff you have to do in AI that are specific to GenAI. That's why
Yeah.
this is a very simple example, but there's what if you took PDFs, things get hairy if you want to
Yeah.
do it yourself because you have to open it and you have to reconstruct it.
Yeah.
Um, so we provide a fairly rich environment so that we've kind of handpicked in NPM what was good, what worked.
Hmm.
So if you look at our docs, there's quite a bit of help here around doing more advanced stuff, whether it's PDF, docx,
Yeah.
um, JSON mode,
Okay.
web search. You want to run playwrights or what do you want to do? You want to scrape a page, you want to spin up a browser, take the
Okay.
take the
So
HTML.
lots of examples and stuff too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for example, if
Yeah.
you want to web scrape, you can't just take the HTML, you're going to explode your context window.
Yeah.
You need to convert it to something like more textual. There's various strategies. If you're trying to extract table, it's different. um, if you want to run a container, you need Docker.
Hmm.
You don't want to deal with the Docker. I mean, you can do Docker Road, but we provide things like that. So there's a bunch of things that are kind of built in that, from a point of view of prototyping, will speed you up. But you can still do import and go and go and do whatever you want. So
Okay.
this is not a
Yeah.
restricted, as long as TSX will load it. So,
Okay.
depending on the ESM state of the library, some libraries are just
Yeah.
maybe a bit too old. They don't load, but mostly it works. You can also load your favorite script program and then go with it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, that's really cool. And getting back to like my question about it's still not being deterministic. The In terms of in the context of the pull request review script that you had there, I s- I think it makes sense because like even though like you said, it's not gonna literally give the same comment for the same code every time, but you're kind of like building a narrative as you go, like you said, like this is a TypeScript file, don't type check it, this, like it's kind of like it's like a lot of things you learn from experience, and that's how you refine it. And that, I think that's where the power comes from, because like as opposed to, because like I was asking before about like just generating a deterministic program, but a deterministic program might not be able to give you the answers like this as well. So
Oh yeah.
like, which
So
I know I'm saying the obvious there, but
here's an example that illustrates that. I'm going to skip all these slides. This is an example we did for MakeCode, um, and it really taps into the non-deterministic and things that only LMs can do these days.
yeah,
So MakeCode uses Markdown for documentation, and we have some some specific macros internally to render Markdown and text into blocks because the MakeCode uses Blockly and it's XML. Nobody wants to write that. So we have CC here. There's like backtick,
yeah,
double pipe there, and you really like you can't mess those up. If you mess those up, our rendering engine just refuses that. Now, when we used to translate that with Bing Translate back in the pre-LLM era,
yeah.
this is what we come back. No, this is the French translator. You can see the backtick is now apostrophe, so it's
Oh, because
toast.
of the okay, yeah, yeah,
It added a space here. These are, these are not backtick anymore. So,
yeah.
or
And
it
it needs to
decides
be
to
blocks,
translate,
not block. Uh, yeah,
or it decides to translate the code. So there's all kind of problems, and at scale, it wasn't usable, which is a huge problem if you're trying to do translation because in practice, we find proofreaders are hard to come by. So
hmm,
proofreading is what kills the translation because can you trust, you can't trust the translators ever,
yeah.
but you have trusted proofreaders. Um, Now, sorry,
Oh yeah,
this
no worries.
is this is a small, well, this is kind of the script that I ended up writing to translate these files, and
Okay.
this was a try. Um, this is a way for me to parameterize my script. So there's a way to pass argument through the CLI and
Hmm.
stuff them into vars, and I have a default. So when I'm debugging in VS Code, I'm defaulting to French, but then I can automate that and run that for every language that the LM supports.
Okay.
Working on a file, again, a way to parameterize things. But this is it. This is where you're starting to teach, and
Hmm.
this is a trial and error thing. You basically take one file, try to translate it, and then it comes back with, and then there's some part of the macro that it messes up. So you start adding things like, and you keep
Okay.
adding.
Yeah.
And this is where you can see how it's iterative. Like
Yeah.
you're basically teaching this macro language. But it also knows about MakeCode because we've been online and it's been scanned. So it is in the brains of the ELM. So you can say it is MakeCode documentation. So you should know about it.
Okay.
But you can remind it things. So this worked amazingly, by the way. It just got it right, like almost
Yeah.
100% of the time it was correct translation, like a game changer. And then once you have that, this is vanilla JavaScript using ZX,
Okay.
and run it for a file, and for every language you want to support, and for every file you want to translate, run it for that pair, language
Yeah.
file, dump the stuff to GenAIScript is going to write the file to disk, run our check docs, so MakeCode is a compiler for docs. So validate the output of the LM.
Yeah.
Did it generate a documentation page that is actually 100% syntactically valid? This is equivalent to running TypeScript or the TypeScript compiler or the C# compiler on
Yeah.
generated code, and then upload it to your database as a translation. That means untrusted.
Yeah.
This is an untrusted translation from our AI that our proofreader are going to go and validate. But the benefit
Okay.
is if you cut down the time of the proofreader, they don't have to translate.
Yeah.
So,
But
you
yeah, I
know,
was gonna say.
we
Sorry,
don't
go ahead.
solve the problem of AI. Like, can you trust the output?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
but
I
yeah,
think
so
yeah. I think we're still at that stage right now where I still never trust AI output. I always review it. Like I've definitely been using AI to, like, for example, I'm writing a lot of Go code at work right now. Uh, Primarily, I was hired for doing more front end. I've done back end stuff too, but like basically I've never written Go before, and it gave me superpowers by
oh yeah,
leveraging AI. And I also had the advantage of one of my coworkers, John, has done a lot of Go, and he was saying like, yeah, no, that code's good. Like, I mean, I would definitely change things up and like review it myself. But he was like, no, this pattern, that's an old pattern from Go. Like, there's certain things it doesn't detect yet. But getting back to what you were saying about like putting in the rules, I could say like, when writing a Go test, make sure it always runs in parallel. Have separate you know data for each test, because like at first when I was asking it to generate some tests for something, it was creating an array that it was looping over, and so like that basically you're potentially polluting an existing test and stuff. So anyways, there's just like, just getting back
so
to what you were just showing, like you can put your guardrails on and say, or like never do this, like always format a test like this, or so like, but it honestly, I've leveled up on Go very very quickly because of just leveraging AI, and not to get in that whole discourse about like AI is going to take our jobs, but I guess I will a bit. But like, I really don't think it's going to. Like, maybe in 50 years, a ton of jobs will be gone. But like, right now, I just see it honestly as a superpower. It's like, work asks me, can we do this? Sure. Okay. Let me just put on my super tool belt and, get going. And it's like, I don't know. It's definitely interesting in weird times, but uh, I keep telling anybody, any devs that I speak to, like, I'm just like, it's an amazing time to be a software developer right now. Like, whatever you're doing, I think.
definitely, if you looked at AI a year ago, it's time to look again. Things
Yeah.
have changed. I think a lot of people stopped at Codex, GPT-3, and they have but in our space of CS, yeah, there's a lot of, with the agents and cursor and
Yeah.
Replit, there's definitely some crazy revolutions happening, and it works or doesn't work depending on what you're trying to
Yeah.
apply it to. For sure. And that's actually a very important thing about AI is that you have to kind of figure out the sweet spots where it's gonna
Hmm.
it's gonna if you say write Mario Kart and or write me a full app, yeah, maybe these agent system will do it, but is that going to answer your specific need?
Yeah.
Some scenarios like this transformation scenario here for MakeCode documentation,
Yeah.
that's like a perfect scenario. It's a transformation. It's the there are a lot of files, and we were talking,
Hmm.
thousands of files. So if I can get this right, the payoff is thousands of translation hours or
Yeah.
hundreds of thousands. So that's where it's a sweet spot where you say, well, yes, automation makes sense here, and it makes sense to spend more time here because
Hmm.
I'm going to multiply that. If you're doing a one-off thing, just use a chat. You know,
Yeah.
there's really no reason to go to a script. Um, but as we know, we have build scripts, and we like to automate things in CS in this industry.
Hmm.
So if you find yourself doing the same chat over and over again, or copy pasting, this pre-prompt in your chat to kind of start, test generating tests is not. I mean, generating tests is such a common scenario that's built into every IDE these days. So
Yeah.
that's the obvious one. But then there's all the other ones, and I think that's where we have a history of writing scripts. So GenAIScript is one attempt in there, and it's JavaScript. A little bit of love on the
Yeah.
GenAI side for the JavaScript community. Um, there's quite a bit of features, but in general, it's yeah, you can search it in the docs, but it's mostly about making you more productive. So if
Yeah.
we, I have this beautiful thing here. Oh, I had this, on the input side,
Hmm.
you work on files because that's that's a kind of a the way we organize things in VS Code. So from files, you run your prompt, and then you can have tools, and then you can start defining tools. And then
Hmm.
on the other side of the pipeline, we try to extract files from the output and
Yeah.
put them where you want it. And if we can, we try to uh, validate them.
Yeah.
Also, we support things like diff format and things like that. So what happens when your file is huge? I mean,
Yeah.
these days you better have small files because
Yeah.
otherwise you
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
no. If you trivially generate the whole file content, um, it works great until you explode your output token window.
Yeah.
Then you have to start generating diffs. But these diffs are tricky because you can't just say generate a git diff format. It doesn't work that well. It gets hallucinations around the line numbers. Um,
Yeah. Totally.
so these are kind of the value add. But yeah, you get into the habit of, as a developer at least, saying, "Oh, I should really write a script for this.
Yeah.
I want to do it again." I was I had to, yesterday I had to convert some code from C sharp, from TypeScript to C sharp.
Okay.
And you know how it goes. Like I could do it, or I could write a script that does it.
Yeah.
And next time I have to do it. So yeah, there's also a danger there. And most of the time I would use a chat because
Yeah.
it's faster. And I know it's a one-off. But
Yeah.
when it starts to be interesting and you can actually, this git commit message or this linter, linter is a whole new topic where you can say, oh, can I lint this? But it could
Hmm.
be reviewing your style of communication. Every time you do format a file, using Prettier,
Yeah.
it could have been an LM call saying, oh, and improve my writing, or
Okay.
um,
Yeah. Yeah. Not just the formatting. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
not just the formatting, because now the LM are able to do way more than just looking at your tabs and your curly
Hmm.
braces. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, this is a project. We are open source on GitHub. So give us
Yeah.
a
I dropped
star.
the link to it. Uh, yeah. No, this is
We
super
are
cool.
gonna die by the stars now.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm also I'm gonna drop a link. This is on open source where I work, but it's basically we have a work. I've created a workspace of the SBOM of GenAI script, the software bill of materials, and I was actually very surprised. You only have two dependencies. You have ZX and Node Glob. Is that correct?
Maybe the nested packages,
Oh, maybe
way
it's
more,
that.
because the no, we have a lot of a lot of we have a lot of dependencies.
Okay, okay, okay. So interesting.
The
Maybe that's
top
something we
one,
have to look at.
yeah. So here we only have this.
Okay, okay. So I think okay, our thing scan the top project. It's a
Yeah,
mono repo or
there's workspace, so
oh, okay, okay.
you guys need to follow that.
Yeah,
We
no, that's
actually
good
do.
feedback.
One of the things we one of the thing we did is kind of figuring out how the annoying thing is done in TypeScript. Like, how do you get PDF? How do you get YAML parsing or CSV or docx or things like that? So
Yeah.
when you're writing your script, you can say, I want to parse these things because this
Okay.
is like, think about it, it's a runtime to go and do these things fast. You don't want to go and figure out, how do I parse
Yeah.
PDF,
What's the package or whatever?
what's the package, and things like that. And
Yeah.
originally, because we were a VS Code extension, we'd bundle everything together. So
Yeah.
it solves also like, will it work tomorrow? Yes, because it's all bundled in.
Yeah.
And honestly, the startup time is not an issue. It's waiting for the LM. The
Yeah.
you argue that bundling too much is will kill your startup time for your CLI, but it's really waiting for the tokens that where the time is spent. So it doesn't really
Yeah.
matter that much. But it's very convenient to say, oh, I got some HTML. Well, how do I
Hmm.
turn that into text? And there's an awesome ecosystem in NPM. A lot of people have done great work around all these topics, and we've kind of collected them and made them available again so that when you're trying to solve an issue, it doesn't become a problem. It's like how do I do
Yeah.
that? Uh,
Yeah.
Python has a more active community looking at that, but
Okay.
um,
Yeah.
you know,
I definitely can appreciate the lack of analysis paralysis on what to use too, because like and it's definitely convenient. Like just give me XML, give me this or whatever, and like I can even think of scenarios where like think of like new devs that never touched XML and all of a sudden they have to pass XML to a service and they they've never even touched that. They could write a script to say, okay, here's my JSON payload, always format it like this for what I mean, like stuff like that. But it's no, this project looks really compelling, and the fact that you
under
have so many examples as well and like supported stuff is I think pretty huge.
yeah, under the hood, we do. There's really good JSON repairing libraries. We
Okay.
support JSON 5, which is which has comments and looks more like
Okay.
JavaScript. Uh, Again, the LLM might decide to be slightly wrong, or it's more efficient to send YAML. Data in YAML has less tokens, so we can encode
Yeah.
that. So we think about when you write a table of a CSV table, it's
Hmm.
actually more efficient to encode it as a markdown table
Yeah.
on the token level. So all these things are basically baked in for you, so that
Yeah.
because the runtime, eventually we don't do that, but we could optimize for which model you're looking at. So
Okay.
Claude, I don't know how you say Claude in English. People say
Yeah, no,
Claude, Cloud,
I say Claude as well. But yeah, people I think English people say Claude. Uh
Claude. So
yeah.
Claude likes XML tags,
Yeah.
but it's been trained for that. OpenAI less so, I think. So
Hmm.
you want to encode, how do we encode that? That
Yeah.
def is going to be different. Um,
Yeah.
so but this is really thinking about, again, what you can do in a chat is debugging. Writing
Hmm.
tests is kind of this approach where you want to do reusable stuff. Oh, by the way, I forgot to say, but this is JavaScript, so we can also debug things. So, and
Oh, okay.
that's the
That's
benefit
definitely
of
nice.
that's the benefit of using a existing runtime and language, is that we get all the tooling from VS Code there, so you can look at
Yeah.
the variables and stuff. So that's basically for free in
Yeah.
the ecosystem. The same way we get TypeScript validation, we get if I if I use this, I get my curly brace here. So all that stuff is
Yeah.
for free because we've dropped that. So that's also, when you think about why didn't we not make our own language?
Yeah.
Well, you got people know how to write JavaScript, and you got all the tooling that comes with it. That's great.
Yeah,
Um,
no. That's a really smart move because it's like it's table stakes these days to like okay you just released like if we think of like a front end framework like okay does it work in VS Code, is there IntelliSense, is there this so like it it's pretty awesome that you just basically leverage that for free.
yes.
I guess I guess the one question I had about that is because like typically like if you're like writing TypeScript and then you're like debugging it, whether you go in the browser and front end or if you're in the back end, there's source maps for it. And like obviously this is a specific JavaScript runtime with certain goals,
Oh,
or is it okay? It's
it's
still
not.
the okay, okay, okay. So I guess
We
my question then is source mapped? Is that how this works?
it depends. So if you're using an MJS file, a module JavaScript file, it's not source mapped. It's
Okay.
using TSX.
Oh yeah, you were saying yeah,
So
yeah. Okay,
now, if you use a JavaScript file or if you use a notebook, I think we have a notebook. Then we generate we have notebook support. So
okay,
run this here and then see the output. In this case, we generate a piece of JS and then we use Magic String, which is a npm package that generates source maps on the fly.
okay.
So it is source map.
Tonight I learned about Magic Screen. Okay. Yeah, no, I was just curious about the source map story there because like certain syntax in there is obviously not typically valid JavaScript, so that's why I was
Well,
wondering.
this is all 100% valid. It's just
Oh
that we
wait,
have a
oh yeah, yeah. Okay, the dollar sign, it's a template string function. Sorry, I didn't realize that.
yeah,
Okay, okay,
ZX. We like ZX, and they use that. And this is, I
okay.
think, the only kind of symbol. It's the most popular symbol to put there. People
Yeah,
have
yeah,
been overusing it for
yeah.
good or
Sorry,
bad. There's
jQuery.
a different school of thought. Sorry. It does make for a very simple syntax when you want to start because
Yeah,
remember the first sample was
yeah,
so there's
totally.
minimal overhead. And the truth is we can actually run markdown files. So we support Prompty, the Prompty file, and then
Okay,
we can run that. Uh, but then
that's
again,
cool.
um, we run that. So yes, we read. This is JavaScript, and this
Yeah,
is when you do the MJS or the MTS file here, you can do import. So you
yeah.
can go here and I don't know,
Okay.
use
Yeah. I think I
or
got thrown off in some of the code initially. I think I thought it wasn't JavaScript. That's why I was wondering. But yeah,
yes, yeah,
it's
yeah,
all
yeah.
valid function calls and yeah. Yeah, it was just the
Everything.
dollar sign. I thought there was like spacing or something. So okay. No, that's even
Yeah,
cooler to be
yeah,
honest.
yeah.
Like
No, it's quite important because you don't want to rebuild that toolery.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
big undertaking. Yeah.
And also, um, then you get, oh yeah, you get Copilot to
Oh
help you
yeah,
write.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, okay. You're
So
literally leveraging any tool that the
yeah,
language is
I'm not fighting
supporting. Yeah.
Copilot. I can have the help of Copilot to help me write my
Yeah.
prompts. And the
Yeah.
same way, probably if you write a prompt in Markdown, you're gonna get Copilot suggesting stuff for you.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it doesn't have to learn a new language. I think I'm gonna have to drop soon because I have a call I have to
Oh yeah,
prepare
no, no.
for.
I have a meeting in 10 minutes, so yeah, I have to drop off soon too.
But
But
yeah,
yeah,
we
I guess
got
to
a
wrap up,
lot of documentation. One thing we
yeah.
didn't touch on is what kind of access do you need? I think that's the
Oh yeah.
one. Um, we use M files for the secrets. We support OpenAI, GitHub models. Those are great to play around in your code space. They're heavily rate limited. They're not made for production.
Yeah.
Um, Azure OpenAI, both with the Azure login or the keys.
Okay.
We also can tap into the GitHub Copilot chat models,
Okay.
um, which is a recent feature. Otherwise, anything that looks like OpenAI, we can run. So, local AI, Olama, Lights, Llama file, Jan, LM Studio, Llama CPP.
Okay.
There's a whole bunch of them. But pretty much anything that talks the OpenAI JSON, the chat
Hmm.
API, we can run. This is
Okay.
all in the docs. This is the part where you want to configure stuff. But there's
Okay.
this testing story which is using PromptFoo, which is a really cool test automation red teaming framework in Node
Okay.
for your prompts. Um, and other than that, we spend quite a bit of time writing docs because we hope that in the next round of LM, it knows about GenAIScript more
Yeah, I
by
was gonna
scanning.
say because you were showing Copilot, people would get
Yeah,
Copilot for their Gen AI scripts. So
yeah.
Yeah, no, this is
So
like a super ambitious and very promising project. I mean, it looks pretty solid already. I guess my last question before we wrap up is, so you work under Microsoft Research, so is this still considered experimental, or would like,
yeah, it
okay,
is still an experiment, which is fully open source that you're, under MIT. So
yeah,
you
okay,
can either contribute or fork it, um, side load the extension if you want to.
okay,
But yeah, it is experimental. There's no product that hasn't that is backing it up.
yeah.
As
That
yeah,
that said though, I don't know. Like I said, it looks pretty promising.
but these days you get the whole source code, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
you can just load the repo and run with it. So it's also kind of rethinking. It's just another way to think about how we interface with AI. I think we're still discovering this tech in the many ways, and chat is definitely one of the popular. Agents are a new one.
hmm,
Um, by the way, agents are functions, so you can do agents. You can just
yeah,
call functions after the other. You can write. You can have fun writing your own agentic framework. Um, what was it? What is an agent? It's either a tool. These are the built-in tools,
okay,
or I think it was like LLM. I had this LM as a tool. So this was a bit more meta, where I define a tool that can run an LM.
okay,
So the main LM is going to decide to upload jobs to GPT-4 is going to decide to upload jobs to the GPT 3.5 to do like some
okay.
reasons. And
So
then I have another one that's a file system that actually hides various tools to. So this one can read, write, list files, but it acts as its own enclosed agent that can reason about a file system.
okay,
But again, you can start building these agents, and the layer is kind of you're writing the layer of the agentic system.
okay, yeah,
There's
cool.
ways to have fun with this and experiment.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, definitely looks
kind
super
of
fun. And yeah, I'll drop a link to it one more time if folks want to check that out on GitHub. Go give it a star. Uh, I know you got to hop off shortly, Peli, and so do I. But honestly, this was awesome. Thanks so much for the walkthrough. Again, this looks super cool and very promising. And yeah, I'll be keeping an eye on the stuff you're working on, so because it's super cool.
Thank you, Nick, for hosting me.
Yeah,
Have a good
cool,
day.
cool. Yeah,
Bye,
all
everybody.
right. Take care, everybody.